Hi, my name is Jonathan Vivas. I'm a senior at Cypress Bay, and for my portfolio project, I decided to choose a magazine. I'll be talking about why I chose this topic and the process I went through throughout my project. I chose this topic because I'm a big sports fan. I like the idea of how competitive high school sports are and who are the best high school teams out there. There's not much attention to high school sports and the struggle for a student athlete. There are many components to being able to play for high school sports and even onto the collegiate leagues. Since I was able to produce my own topic, I found it a perfect fit for me to wrap my magazine around the idea of high school sports. The entire process of creating my magazine wasn't so easy. The editing process was long and challenging, but I was able to learn and improve my skills. But I'll be getting into more detail about that later. I had a great time developing my magazine and being able to have the challenge of creating a whole magazine from scratch. I began my process with my masthead. Grind was a masthead that I felt fit perfect for my magazine. Since a high school student athlete has struggles to overcome throughout high school, I found grind to be an accurate representation of what high school is. After figuring out my idea for my masthead, everything else fell into place. I moved on to the table of contents. I wanted to keep my table of contents simple and straight to the point. On one page, I have a picture of a high school baseball field to be able to incorporate the different sports within my magazine. On the other page, I kept it simple of just having page numbers and headings while keeping the color scheme of the magazine. Moving on from my table of contents, here's my 2-page spread. At first, it was hard for me to figure out what I'd want my 2-page spread to be about. After working within groups in class, I was able to brainstorm with my classmates on what was a good idea that would fit my magazine personally. My first idea was focusing on how student athletes would be able to balance out schoolwork and sports, but it seemed too mainstream of a topic. So, with the help of my classmates, we were able to come up with the idea of incorporating the NBA with high school and the advantages and disadvantages of not being able to enter the NBA draft after high school. This was also a great fit for my magazine since one of my best friends, as seen right here, is a 4-year varsity basketball starter. And being able to add the NBA to a high school magazine would bring in more audiences and interest towards my magazine. Okay, so now on to the creative critical reflection questions. So number one, how does your product use or challenge conventions and how does it represent social groups or issues? My magazine challenges conventions because it is a way of getting factual information as well as human interest stories about high school teams, players, and coaches that help people who purchase the magazine have a better understanding of high school sports. My magazine represents social issues that come up in schools and can be portrayed by the players being featured or overall from all these high school teams within my magazine. So number two, how does your product engage with audiences and how would it be distributed as real media text? So my product engages with its audience by having terminology that most athletes understand. For example, my title Grind, as I spoke about previously, is used mostly by athletes describing the hard work and long process of crafting and making their skills the best they can be. Since my audience is based on the young, developing athletes, having images of young athletes and ideas being dealt with the youth help with the engagement of my audience. My magazine will be distributed through bookstores, online, high schools, and high school sporting events, places where my audience will be able to access my magazine easily. Okay, so on to question number three. How did your production skills develop throughout this project? So, my production skills developed throughout this project by constantly trying to find the best possible website to be able to lay out and create my magazine as I wanted. Most websites didn't have a lot of editing tools or an easy understanding of how to lay out and place images onto the magazine. So, once finding the website I was going to use, I had to be able to work with the editing tools within the website and use them to their full potential. Another skill I was able to learn was how to create a PNG image and cut out background images and place them onto my magazine, as shown here in my cover page and in my 2-page spread. Okay, so on to number four and final question. How did you integrate technologies, software, hardware, and online in this project? I was able to integrate technology in this project by having to constantly use a computer or my laptop to keep my files and work safe. Using websites and different editing tools to maximize the potential of my magazine was another factor. Most of my project was done digitally and online, other than forming my blueprints on paper. So technology was a big factor for my project. Thank you for listening to my CCR.